I'm Gabriella, 36 years old, and I never thought I'd have to escape my own daughter's home. For years, Amanda controlled everything from my paycheck to my free time, using me for free childcare, while claiming she was helping me. The day I finally stood up for myself, she called me selfish and ungrateful. Ironic, coming from someone who treated me like an unpaid nanny for her 3 kids. Before I tell you my story of breaking free, let me know where you're watching from and subscribe for more real stories of family rebuilding. Growing up, I never imagined my relationship with my daughter would turn into what it became. I had Amanda when I was just 18, barely out of high school and full of dreams. Her father disappeared as soon as he found out I was pregnant, leaving me alone to figure out how to raise a child when I was still practically a child myself. Those early years were tough. I had to drop out of college after just 1 semester to work full-time. I dreamed of becoming a nurse, but instead I worked as a cashier at the local grocery store during the day and waitressed at night. My mum helped watch Amanda when she could, but she worked long hours herself, so most of the time it was just Amanda and me against the world. Despite the hardships, I made sure Amanda never went without. I skipped meals so she could have new school clothes. I worked overtime to pay for her dance classes. When she showed an interest in science, I scraped together enough to buy her a microscope kit for Christmas. Seeing her face light up made all the sacrifices worth it. Amanda was a bright child. She brought home perfect report cards and won science fairs. Teachers called her gifted, and I swelled with pride, knowing that despite our circumstances, she was thriving. During her high school years, we had our share of arguments as she pushed boundaries like any teenager, but I always thought we had a solid foundation of love and respect. I encouraged her to apply to colleges, something I never got to experience fully. When she got accepted to State University with a partial scholarship, I picked up a 3rd job cleaning offices on weekends to help cover the remaining costs. I wanted her to have the opportunities I never did. During her college years, Amanda met James. He came from money. His family owned a chain of car dealerships across 3 states. He was studying business and already had a job lined up at a prestigious consulting firm. When Amanda brought him home during her junior year, I could see she was smitten. James was handsome, well-spoken, and seemed to adore my daughter. At 22, right after graduation, Amanda and James got married. The wedding was at his parents' country club, much fancier than anything I could have provided. I felt out of place among all the wealthy guests in their designer clothes, but I smiled through it all, happy that my daughter had found someone who could give her a stable life. I remember standing to the side during the reception, watching Amanda dance with James' father. Amanda's new mother-in-law approached me with a champagne flute in hand. "You must be so relieved," she said, "knowing Amanda is marrying into a good family that can take care of her properly." The comment stung, but I smiled politely. I was used to hiding my feelings. After the wedding, Amanda and James bought a beautiful 2-story house in an upscale neighborhood. I continued working my multiple jobs, visiting them for Sunday dinners when I could. I noticed that Amanda began to adopt some of the attitudes of her wealthy in-laws, occasionally making comments about my clothes or my old car. Still, I brushed it off as her adjusting to her new life. Then about 2 years after their wedding, my life took a difficult turn. The grocery store where I'd worked for nearly 20 years was bought by a larger chain, and they laid off most of the long-term employees. At the same time, the restaurant changed management and my hours were cut dramatically. To make matters worse, the rent on my small apartment increased by 30%, making it unaffordable on my reduced income. Around this same time, I started experiencing pain in my hands and knees. The doctor diagnosed me with early onset arthritis, likely from years of physical labor. He prescribed medication that helped somewhat, but the pain made it difficult to stand for long periods or carry heavy trays, limiting my ability to find similar work. When Amanda heard about my situation, she called me with what seemed like a lifeline. "Mum, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't be struggling like this. James and I have plenty of space. Why don't you move in with us for a while until you get back on your feet?" The offer brought tears to my eyes. Despite our occasional differences, my daughter was looking out for me. At least that's what I thought at the time. How could I have known that her invitation wasn't motivated by love, but by what she could get from me? "Are you sure?" I asked, not wanting to impose. "It would just be temporary until I can find a more affordable place and a new job." "Of course," Amanda assured me. "Family takes care of family, and honestly, it would be nice having you around more." Relieved and grateful, I accepted her offer. I gave notice at my apartment and started packing up the few possessions I had accumulated over the years. Little did I know that by moving into my daughter's home, I was about to enter a situation that would slowly strip away my independence, dignity, and self-worth. When I arrived at Amanda and James's house with my belongings, Amanda showed me to what would be my new living space. "We've set up the basement for you," she said, leading me down the stairs. "It's not fancy, but it should be comfortable." The basement was finished, but only barely. There was a futon instead of a proper bed, a small dresser, and a TV that looked like it was from the early 2000s. The concrete floor was partially covered by an old area rug, and the single window was small and high on the wall, letting in minimal light. "The bathroom is here." She pointed to a small half bath with just a toilet and sink. "You can use the shower upstairs when no one else needs it." I tried to hide my disappointment. Upstairs, their house was beautifully furnished with plush carpets, modern appliances, and designer furniture. The contrast between their living space and what they had provided for me was stark, but I reminded myself that beggars can't be choosers. This was still better than being homeless. "Thank you for this," I said, trying to sound genuinely grateful. "I'm sure I'll be comfortable here." "Great." Amanda clapped her hands together. "Oh, and James's parents are coming for dinner tonight, so maybe you could help me prepare something nice." They're always so judgmental about my cooking. That was the beginning of a pattern I didn't recognize until much later. What started as occasional requests for help quickly evolved into regular expectations. About a month after I moved in, Amanda shared some exciting news: she was pregnant. I was thrilled at the prospect of becoming a grandmother and hugged her tightly when she told me, "This is wonderful news. I'm so happy for you both," I said, genuinely excited. "I'm so glad you're here, Mom," Amanda replied. "It's going to be such a help having you around when the baby comes." I didn't think much about that comment at the time. Of course, I would help with my grandchild, that's what family does. But I didn't realize just how much help Amanda would expect. As her pregnancy progressed, my role in the house expanded. I took over most of the cleaning, cooking, and laundry, while Amanda explained she needed to take it easy for the baby. James worked long hours at his consulting job, often not coming home until after 9, so he was rarely around to help. I had managed to find a part-time job at a local bookstore, working 20 hours a week. The pay wasn't great, but it gave me some income and got me out of the house. However, as Amanda's due date approached, she began to complain about my work schedule. "Mum, I really need you here more. What if something happens while you're at work? And what about after the baby comes? You can't seriously expect to keep working then." "I need to earn some money, Amanda," I explained. "I can't just rely on you and James forever." This was supposed to be a temporary arrangement. She sighed dramatically. "If it's about money, we can work something out. Maybe you could contribute to household expenses from your Social Security checks instead of working." I was only 54, not old enough for Social Security, but I didn't correct her. Instead, I agreed to reduce my hours to just 2 shifts a week to appease her. When Tyler was born, a beautiful baby boy with James's eyes and Amanda's nose, I fell in love instantly. Holding my grandson for the first time was one of the most precious moments of my life. I was happy to help care for him, getting up for middle-of-the-night feedings and changing countless diapers while Amanda recovered. What I didn't expect was that her recovery would apparently last for years. Even after she was physically healed, Amanda showed little interest in the day-to-day care of her son. She would hold him for photos, dress him in cute outfits, for visits with friends or family. But the moment he cried or needed a diaper change, she would hand him to me. "You're so much better at this than I am, Mum," she would say. "He calms right down for you." One evening, about 2 months after Tyler was born, Amanda approached me with a manila folder while I was rocking the baby to sleep. "Mum, I've been thinking," she said, sitting on the edge of my futon. "You seem to be having trouble keeping up with your bills. I found an overdue notice from your credit card company in the mail." I felt embarrassed. With my reduced hours at the bookstore, I had been struggling to make even minimum payments on my few bills. "I thought maybe I could help you manage your finances," Amanda continued. "It would be simpler if I just handled all the household money, including your income. That way you wouldn't have to worry about it." It seemed like a reasonable suggestion at the time. Amanda had always been good with numbers, and I was tired from caring for Tyler around the clock. I agreed, providing her with my bank information and the details of my few accounts. Within weeks, I realized what this really meant. Amanda set up direct deposit for my paycheck from the bookstore to go straight into her account. When I needed anything personal like toiletries or clothes, she would either purchase them for me or give me a small amount of cash, what she called my allowance. When I questioned this arrangement, asking how much of my paycheck was being saved for me, Amanda became defensive. "Mum, do you have any idea how expensive it is to have you living here? The extra utilities, the food, the space you're taking up, I'm not charging you market rate for rent, you know. Most of your check barely covers your expenses. I was shocked. I hadn't realized I was expected to pay so much for the unfinished basement and the food I mostly prepared myself. But Amanda made me feel selfish for even questioning the arrangement, after all they had taken me in when I had nowhere else to go. So I stopped asking questions. I accepted the small amount of spending money she provided and continued caring for Tyler full-time while trying to maintain my 2 shifts at the bookstore. I told myself this was temporary, that things would change once Tyler was a little older. I didn't realize that I was setting a precedent that would become increasingly difficult to break. 2 years after Tyler was born, Amanda announced she was pregnant again. Unlike with her first pregnancy, she didn't cut back on any of her activities. If anything, she became more socially active, joining a Mummy and Me group that seemed to involve more lunches at expensive restaurants than actual activities with Tyler. "You don't mind watching Tyler while I go to my group, do you, Mom?" she would ask, already dressed and heading for the door. "It's important for me to maintain my social connections for when I go back to work." Amanda had worked briefly as a marketing coordinator before Tyler was born, but had been on extended maternity leave ever since. There was never any serious discussion about her returning to work despite her frequent references to doing so. When Emma was born, my workload doubled overnight. Now I had a newborn and a toddler to care for, often simultaneously. My arthritis was getting worse, making it painful to lift the children, but I pushed through the pain. What choice did I have? One day, about 3 months after Emma's birth, I approached Amanda while she was scrolling through her phone on the living room couch. Both children were finally napping and I had just finished cleaning the kitchen. "Amanda," I said carefully, "I think we need to discuss the childcare arrangement. My arthritis is acting up and handling both kids all day is becoming difficult for me." "What?" She looked up annoyed at the interruption. "What do you expect me to do? Mum hire a nanny? Do you know how expensive that would be?" "I'm not saying you need a full-time nanny," I explained, "but maybe we could look into part-time daycare for Tyler, or you could take more responsibility for the children on some days." Amanda's expression hardened. "I see. So after everything we've done for you, providing you with a place to live, food to eat, taking care of your finances, you're complaining about spending time with your own grandchildren. Do you know how many grandmothers would love to be in your position?" I felt a familiar knot of guilt form in my stomach. "That's not what I meant. I love spending time with them. I just physically need some breaks sometimes." "Fine," she sighed dramatically. "I'll see if I can find a mother's helper to come in a few hours a week, but that means we'll need to adjust your contribution to household expenses to cover the cost." By adjust my contribution, Amanda meant taking even more of my paycheck. At this point, from my bookstore job and a small pension from the grocery store, I earned about $800 a month. Of that, Amanda now gave me just $50 as spending money. The rest, she claimed, went toward my room and board utilities, and now this new mother's helper, who turned out to be a teenage neighbor who came twice a week for a total of 4 hours. Around this time, I noticed something else concerning. I had qualified for a senior discount card that provided reduced prices on prescriptions and certain services. Amanda had insisted on keeping this card with the rest of my important documents that she now managed. When I asked to use it for a prescription, she told me she'd already used it for household purchases. "Since your medication is covered under our family insurance, now I thought it made sense to use the discount for things that benefit everyone," she explained. I didn't recall agreeing to this arrangement, but by then I had learned that questioning Amanda only led to arguments I couldn't win. She had a way of twisting my words and making me feel like I was being unreasonable or ungrateful. The following year, Amanda announced her 3rd pregnancy. By this point, I had given up my job at the bookstore entirely, as juggling 2 young children and work had become impossible with my worsening arthritis. This meant I was now completely financially dependent on Amanda and James, a fact that Amanda reminded me of frequently. Noah was born in the middle of winter, a fussy baby who cried constantly with colic. I spent many nights walking the basement floor with him, trying not to wake the rest of the household. During the day, I was responsible for all 3 children while also maintaining the house. Meanwhile, Amanda had started what she called a small business, selling overpriced skincare products through a multi-level marketing scheme. This mainly involved her spending hours on social media and attending business meetings that seemed suspiciously like social gatherings at upscale venues. One day, I overheard her on the phone with a friend. "It's actually working out perfectly," she was saying. "Mum watches the kids for free, so I don't have to worry about daycare costs cutting into my business expenses. And with what we save on childcare, I can reinvest in more product inventory. Her words cut deep. I wasn't watching the kids for free. Out of choice, I had no choice. She had systematically stripped away my independence until I was completely at her mercy, and now she was bragging about it to her friends. That evening, I noticed James watching me as I served dinner. The children ate earlier, so it was just the three of us at the table. James worked such long hours that we rarely had conversations, but tonight he seemed to be studying me with concern. "Gabriella, are you feeling all right?" he asked. "You look tired." Before I could answer, Amanda jumped in. "Mum's fine. She just needs to take her arthritis medication more regularly. I keep telling her that." "Actually," I said quietly, "Asa, I've been trying to get a doctor's appointment for weeks. My prescription needs adjusting, but every time we schedule something else comes up with the kids." James frowned. "That's not right, Amanda. Your mum needs to see her doctor. I can watch the kids for an afternoon." "You're always so busy with work," Amanda said quickly. "And Mum doesn't mind waiting a little longer, do you? Mum family comes first, right?" The look she gave me made it clear what my answer should be, so I smiled weakly and said, "Of course, family first." Later that night, Amanda came to my basement room. "Don't try to get James involved in these things," she said coldly. "He doesn't understand our arrangement." "What exactly is our arrangement, Amanda?" I finally asked. "Because I'm starting to feel less like your mother and more like an unpaid servant." Her face hardened. "After everything we've done for you, this is the gratitude we get. You'd be homeless without us. Remember that." As she turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of something familiar around her neck. It was my mother's pendant, a small sapphire on a silver chain, one of the few valuable items I had brought with me. When I had unpacked, I couldn't find it and assumed it had been lost in the move. "Is that my mother's necklace?" I asked, surprised. Amanda touched it casually. "Oh, this old thing. You weren't using it, and it matches my eyes. I figured you wouldn't mind since we cover all your expenses now." She left before I could respond, closing the door behind her. I sat on my futon in the dimly lit basement, realizing just how much I had lost, not just material possessions, but my dignity, independence, and self-respect. Something needed to change, but I felt trapped and powerless to make that change happen. As the years passed, I noticed that Amanda had become increasingly effective at isolating me from any potential support outside her household. My old friends from the neighborhood and workplace had largely fallen out of touch. Anytime I mentioned meeting up with someone, Amanda would find a reason why it wasn't possible. "Mum, you can't go out with Janet today. Emma has a slight cough and I need you here in case it gets worse." Or, "That senior centre trip sounds nice, but we need you to watch the kids while we go to James's company dinner." On the rare occasions when old friends called the house phone, Amanda would often intercept the calls. "Sorry, my mum can't come to the phone right now. She's busy with the grandkids. I'll tell her you called." But she never passed on the messages. My cell phone, which I had owned before moving in, mysteriously disappeared about a year into my stay. Amanda replaced it with an older model that she kept on their family plan, explaining that this would save money. Of course, this also meant she could check my call history whenever she wanted. "I saw you were talking to Barbara for almost an hour yesterday," she remarked once. "Honestly, Mom, I don't think she's a good influence on you. All she does is complain about her children. It's really negative energy." One by one, my connections to the outside world were severed. Barbara stopped calling after Amanda told her off for keeping me from my grandchildren. Janet eventually moved to Florida without saying goodbye because Amanda had told her I was too busy to see her. My world shrank until it consisted solely of Amanda's house and the 3 children. The emotional manipulation was even more insidious than the social isolation. Amanda had developed a full arsenal of tactics to keep me compliant and questioning my own judgment. "After all we've done for you," became her constant refrain whenever I expressed any need or desire of my own. When I asked about possibly converting part of the basement into a more comfortable bedroom with a real bed instead of a futon, she sighed heavily. "Do you have any idea how much that would cost? We're already stretching our budget to support you. Most people your age would be grateful just to have a roof over their head." If I mentioned feeling tired or in pain, Amanda would immediately make me feel like a burden. "I guess I'll have to cancel my important meeting then," she would say with a martyred expression. "I can't leave you alone with the kids if you're not feeling well. James will be so disappointed when I tell him why I had to cancel." Any boundaries I tried to establish were immediately cast as selfish or uncaring. "You don't want to watch the kids this weekend, but James and I haven't had a date night in ages." Don't you care about our marriage? Don't you want us to have a strong family? The gaslighting was perhaps the most damaging aspect of all. Amanda would frequently deny previous conversations or agreements, making me question my own memory. I never said you could have Sundays off. Why would I say that when that's the day James and I usually go to brunch with friends? Or, we never agreed that you would only watch the kids until they started school. You must be confused. We always planned for you to homeschool them. The children became another form of emotional leverage. They were sweet kids who genuinely loved me, and I adored them. Amanda knew this and didn't hesitate to use it against me. If you keep complaining about your arthritis, we might need to find other childcare arrangements. The kids would be heartbroken not to see their grandmother every day. Is that what you want? The Christmas incident was what finally began to open my eyes to the full extent of my daughter's exploitation. The family had planned a week-long trip to visit James's parents in Colorado for the holidays. I had assumed I would be included, especially since they would need help with the children during travel. 2 days before they were set to leave, Amanda informed me I wouldn't be going. We need someone to watch the house and take care of the pets, she explained, as if this had been the plan all along. Besides, the tickets are really expensive and we couldn't justify the extra cost. I spent Christmas alone in the basement while they enjoyed a luxury ski vacation. I had prepared the house before they left, done all the laundry, packed the children's suitcases, and even baked cookies for them to take as gifts. In return, I received a small box of chocolates from an airport gift shop, presented by the children when they returned. While they were gone, I took the rare opportunity to look through some of my old belongings that had been stored in boxes in a corner of the basement. I was searching for photos from when Amanda was young, feeling nostalgic and sad about how our relationship had changed. In one box, I found an empty jewelry case that had once held my most treasured possessions: my mother's wedding ring, a pair of pearl earrings my father had given me on my 18th birthday, and a gold bracelet from my grandmother. I had assumed these items were in another box, but now I couldn't find them anywhere. When Amanda returned, I cautiously asked about the missing jewelry. "Oh, those old things," she said dismissively. "I took them to be cleaned ages ago, and then I put them in our safe for security. You don't need to worry about them." But later that evening, I noticed Amanda wearing my grandmother's bracelet at dinner. When I pointed it out, her expression changed. "Mom, we've been over this," she said, as if speaking to a confused child. "You gave these to me last year as a thank you for everything we do for you. Don't you remember James was there?" James looked up momentarily confused, but then nodded uncertainly when Amanda gave him a pointed look. "Right," he said. "I think I remember that, but I knew with absolute certainty that I had never given my family heirlooms to Amanda. These were the few precious items I had planned to keep forever, eventually passing them down to her properly. The fact that she would lie so blatantly and try to make me doubt my own memory was shocking even after years of similar behaviour. That night, lying on my futon in the basement, I finally admitted to myself what I had been denying for years: my daughter was systematically abusing and exploiting me. She had taken my income, my possessions, my independence, and my dignity. And she had done it all while making me feel like I should be grateful for the privilege of being exploited. Something had to change. I couldn't continue living like this, being treated worse than a servant in what should have been my daughter's loving home. But after years of isolation and financial control, I had no resources, no support system, and nowhere to go. Or so I thought. The final breaking point came on a Tuesday in March. I had been experiencing increasing pain in my hands and knees, making it difficult to even pick up 2-year-old Noah. After weeks of asking, Amanda had finally scheduled a doctor's appointment for me to have my arthritis medication adjusted. The morning of the appointment, I was getting ready to leave when Amanda came into the basement, already dressed in an expensive outfit I hadn't seen before. "Mom, I need a huge favour," she said, not really asking. "Meredith invited me to a special VIP shopping event at the boutique downtown. It's exclusive invitation only. I really can't miss it." "I have my doctor's appointment at 11, I reminded her. "We've rescheduled it twice already." "I know, but this is really important for my networking. You can reschedule again, right? I need you to watch Noah. The girls have their activities, but the babysitter cancelled for Noah." I looked at my swollen fingers, which had been particularly painful that week. "Amanda, I really need to see the doctor. My hands are getting worse, and it's affecting my ability to care for the kids." Her face hardened. "So your appointment is more important than my business opportunity. Do you know how long I've been trying to get into Meredith's circle? Her husband is a partner at James's firm. This could be huge for us. Can't James take a few hours off to watch Noah? or maybe one of your friends? Amanda laughed dismissively. James is working on a major project. He can't just take time off for childcare. And I'm not asking my friends to babysit, that would look terrible. Come on, Mum. After everything we do for you, I'm just asking for one morning. As she spoke, I noticed she was wearing my mother's sapphire pendant again. Something inside me finally snapped. No, I said quietly. Excuse me. Amanda looked genuinely shocked. I said no. I'm going to my doctor's appointment. You'll need to find another solution for Noah. Her expression shifted from shock to anger. I don't think you understand your situation here, Mom. You live in our house. We pay for your food, your clothing, your medication. Everything you have is because of our generosity. My generosity, I corrected her. My unpaid labor watching your children. My pension and social security that you've been taking. My salary from the bookstore before you made me quit. Even my family jewelry that you've somehow convinced yourself I gave to you. Amanda's face flushed with anger. You're being ridiculous and ungrateful. Where would you be without us? Homeless, in some disgusting nursing home. You should be thanking us every day for taking you in. Taking me in or taking advantage of me, I asked, feeling a strange calm despite the confrontation. You've been using me as free childcare and a housekeeper while taking my money and possessions. That's not generosity, Amanda. That's exploitation. How dare you? She hissed. After everything I've done for you. What exactly have you done for me? I asked. Given me a futon in your basement, allowed me an allowance from my own money, treated me like a servant in what was supposed to be my home too. Just then James appeared at the basement door. What's going on? I could hear you from upstairs. Amanda immediately shifted her demeanor, tears appearing in her eyes. Mom's being impossible. She's refusing to help with Noah when I have an important networking event, even after all we've done for her. James looked uncomfortable. Amanda, maybe your mom really needs to see the doctor. I could work from home this morning. That's not the point, Amanda snapped. It's about appreciation and gratitude. My own mother is treating me like I'm some kind of monster, when all I've done is give. I looked at James directly. Did you know that Amanda takes my entire pension and social security check? That she gives me $50 a month as an allowance from my own money? That she's taken family jewelry that's been passed down for generations and claimed I gave it to her? James looked genuinely surprised. What? No, I thought. Amanda told me you were contributing to household expenses, but I didn't realize. She doesn't contribute anything, Amanda interrupted. The money barely covers what it costs to have her here. Do you know how expensive it is to support another adult? An adult who provides full-time childcare for your 3 children and keeps your house running, I countered. How much would you pay a full-time nanny, housekeeper and cook? James looked increasingly uncomfortable as the reality of the situation seemed to dawn on him. Amanda, I think we need to discuss this. If what your mum is saying is true. Oh, so you're taking her side now? Amanda's voice rose. After all these years of me managing everything so you could focus on your career, she's clearly confused. You know how she gets sometimes. That was the moment I truly saw my daughter for who she had become. Someone willing to gaslight and manipulate even her own husband to maintain control. In that moment, I knew I had to leave no matter how difficult it might be. I'm going to my doctor's appointment, I said firmly. And then I'm going to start making arrangements to move out. This situation isn't healthy for any of us, especially not the children who are watching and learning from how you treat me. Amanda's face contorted with rage. Move out and go where you have nothing without us. I'll figure it out, I said, picking up my purse. But I'd rather have nothing than continue to be exploited by my own daughter. As I walked past them up the basement stairs, Amanda called after me. You're being selfish and dramatic. If you leave, don't expect to see the children again. Her threat cut deep. She knew how much I loved Tyler, Emma, and Noah. But I kept walking. For the first time in years, I was choosing myself, and it felt both terrifying and liberating. After that confrontational morning, I went to my doctor's appointment as planned. The doctor was concerned about the progression of my arthritis and adjusted my medication, but also commented on my elevated blood pressure and signs of anxiety. Have you been under unusual stress lately, Bear? He asked. If only he knew. Instead of returning to Amanda's house immediately after I went to the public library. It was one of the few places I could go without raising suspicions, as I occasionally took the children there for story time. Using one of the public computers, I set up a new email account, something Amanda couldn't monitor, and sent a message to Sarah, an old friend from my grocery store days, who I hadn't spoken to in years. To my surprise and relief, Sarah replied within hours. She had often wondered what happened to me after I seemed to drop off the face of the earth. When I explained my situation in vague terms, not wanting to share too many personal details on a public computer, she immediately offered help. "I have a spare bedroom in my apartment," she wrote. "It's small, but it's yours if you need a place to stay. No strings attached, just an old friend helping another." Over the next 2 weeks, I began secretly preparing for my departure. Each time I went grocery shopping with Amanda's credit card, I would get a small amount of cash back, hiding the money in a crossword puzzle book in my purse. I made copies of my identification documents while Amanda was at one of her business meetings, using the copy machine at the library. I gathered the few precious photos and keepsakes I couldn't bear to leave behind. During this time, I was careful to maintain my usual routine, not wanting to alert Amanda to my plans. I watched the children cook the meals and clean the house as always. But inside, I felt different, stronger, and more determined with each passing day. I chose my moment carefully. Amanda, James, and the children were scheduled to attend an all-day event at James's company, a family picnic, that would keep them away from the house for hours. I had initially been expected to attend as well to help with the children, but I complained of severe arthritis pain that morning, and for once, Amanda didn't argue. She was eager to make a good impression on James's colleagues, and didn't want a potentially cranky mother ruining the perfect family image. As soon as they left, Sarah arrived with her car. We worked quickly, loading my few belongings into her trunk. I didn't have much, just some clothes, a few books, and the personal items I had managed to keep out of Amanda's grasp. My heart broke a little as I left behind the children's drawings and small gifts they had given me over the years, but I knew Amanda would use any attempt to take them as theft. Before leaving, I wrote a letter explaining my departure. I wanted to be clear about why I was leaving, both for Amanda and James to understand, and for myself to have closure. "Amanda," I wrote, "I am leaving today because the current living arrangement has become unhealthy and exploitative. For years, I have provided full-time childcare, housekeeping and cooking, while you have controlled my finances, taken my possessions, isolated me from friends, and treated me with disrespect. This is not a loving family relationship, but an abusive one, and I cannot continue to participate in it. I love Tyler, Emma, and Noah deeply, and it breaks my heart to leave them. I hope that in time we can establish a healthier relationship where I can be part of their lives without being exploited. James, I believe you are unaware of the full extent of this situation, and I hope you will look more closely at the dynamics in your home. I am not telling you where I am going, as I need time and space to heal and rebuild my life. I ask that you return my family jewelry and provide an accounting of my financial resources that have been under Amanda's control. Despite everything, I still love you. Amanda and I hope that someday you will understand why I had to leave. Gabriella." I left the letter on the kitchen table, took one last look around the house that had been both my home and my prison for the past 5 years, and walked out the door. Sitting in Sarah's car, I felt a storm of emotions: fear of the unknown future, guilt about leaving the children, sadness about the relationship with my daughter, but also an overwhelming sense of relief. As we drove away from Amanda's neighborhood, I realized I was taking my first free breath in years. "You okay?" Sarah asked, glancing over at me. "No," I answered honestly, "but I think I will be." The aftermath was as difficult as I had anticipated. Within hours of discovering my absence, Amanda began calling Sarah's phone relentlessly. I had anticipated this and asked Sarah to let the calls go to voicemail. The messages started as angry demands that I return immediately, then shifted to tearful pleas about how the children were devastated, and finally turned to threats about legal action for abandonment and theft of items I had taken. She also enlisted family members to try to pressure me into returning. My cousin Judy, whom I hadn't spoken with in years, suddenly called Sarah's phone, having somehow obtained the number. "Amanda is beside herself," Judy told me when I finally answered. "She says you just walked out without warning after everything she's done for you. The children are crying for their grandmother. How could you be so selfish?" It was clear Amanda had given her version of events to anyone who would listen, casting herself as the generous daughter and me as the ungrateful mother. It hurt, but I wasn't surprised. What did surprise me was when James called a few days later. Unlike Amanda, his tone was concerned rather than accusatory. "Gabriella, are you safe?" he asked first, which told me a lot about his character. "Yes, I'm staying with a friend," I assured him. "I'm sorry," he said next, which surprised me even more. I had no idea about the financial situation. Amanda always handled the household expenses, and I should have paid more attention. "It's not your fault. I said, though part of me felt he should have noticed something was wrong. Amanda went to great lengths to keep you in the dark. The kids miss you terribly, Pa, he said, especially Tyler. He keeps asking when Grandma is coming home. His words pierced my heart. I miss them too, more than I can say, but I couldn't stay in that situation, James. It wasn't healthy for any of us. I understand, he said quietly. I've suggested to Amanda that we see a family therapist to work through this, but she's resistant. She still believes you'll come back if we just wait. I'm not coming back, I said firmly. Not to that basement, not to being treated like a servant. I love my grandchildren, but I need to rebuild my life now. Before ending the call, James promised to stay in touch and to work on Amanda, to agree to supervise visits with the children in the future. It wasn't much, but it was a start. A small glimmer of hope that I hadn't lost my grandchildren forever. The practical challenges of starting over at 56 with minimal resources were daunting. The first hurdle was financial. Sarah was generous in providing temporary housing, but I needed to establish my own income and find permanent housing I could afford. I applied for emergency assistance through local senior services, which helped me access food stamps and temporary financial aid. A social worker helped me document the financial exploitation I had experienced and begin the process of regaining control of my benefits. Finding appropriate medical care was another challenge. Without insurance, since I was no longer on Amanda's family plan, my arthritis treatment became more difficult to manage. A community clinic provided some care on a sliding scale, but the wait times were long and the resources limited. With Sarah's encouragement, I applied for a part-time position at a local gift shop that was willing to accommodate my physical limitations. The pay was modest, but it was a start toward reclaiming my financial independence. Each paycheck that went into my own bank account felt like a victory. Despite these challenges, I was surprised to discover a growing sense of pride and self-worth. After years of being told I was a burden, it was empowering to solve problems on my own and make decisions about my own life, even small ones like what to eat for dinner or what time to go to bed. For the first time in years, I was free. And freedom, I was learning, was worth every struggle. 6 months after leaving Amanda's house, I had managed to find a small studio apartment through a senior housing program. It wasn't fancy, barely 500 square feet with a kitchenette and a tiny bathroom, but it was mine. I had furnished it with second-hand items and a few gifts from Sarah and other friends who had returned to my life since I escaped Amanda's control. My health had improved significantly once I had consistent medical care and reduced stress. The community clinic had connected me with a rheumatologist who specialized in arthritis, and my new treatment plan was working well. I still had pain, especially on rainy days, but it was manageable now. My job at the gift shop had increased to 30 hours a week, and I had started selling hand-knitted scarves and hats on the side, a hobby from my youth that I had rediscovered. Between my small pension Social Security that I now controlled and these income sources, I was making ends meet, not comfortably, but adequately. More importantly, I had begun to rebuild a social life. Sarah had introduced me to her circle of friends, many of whom were around my age and had experienced their own life challenges. We met weekly for coffee and occasionally went to free concerts in the park or discount movie nights. I had also started attending a support group for survivors of elder abuse, which helped me process my experiences and understand that I wasn't alone. Many of the stories shared in that group echoed aspects of my own family abusive adult children using financial control, emotional manipulation, and isolation to exploit their aging parents. With the help of a volunteer lawyer from Legal Aid, I had written formal letters to Amanda and James requesting the return of my family jewelry and an accounting of my finances during the time Amanda had control of them. After several ignored letters, James finally responded, sending back my mother's wedding ring and the pearl earrings from my father. The sapphire pendant and gold bracelet, he explained awkwardly, Amanda was not ready to return. There was also no accounting of my finances, just a brief note, stating that all my income had gone toward my room and board with no surplus. It wasn't everything I had hoped for, but getting even some of my family heirlooms back felt like a victory. I chose to focus on that rather than what remained lost. The most difficult and complex aspect of rebuilding my life was navigating my relationship with Amanda and my grandchildren. True to her initial threat, Amanda had initially refused any contact between me and the children. But after about 4 months, James intervened. "The kids need their grandmother," he told Amanda, according to what he later shared with me. "And keeping them from her is only hurting them." Our first reunion was at a neutral location, a family restaurant with a play area. James brought the children while Amanda stayed home, still refusing to see me. Tyler, now 7, was initially shy, as if unsure how to act around me outside of his home. 5-year-old Emma was more openly affectionate, climbing into my lap, despite my gentle reminder about my arthritis. And little Noah, not quite 3, needed time to warm up, having the fewest memories of me. "Why did you go away, Grandma?" Tyler asked directly, his young face serious. "Mom said you didn't want to live with us anymore." My heart ached at his question. How do you explain a complex situation like elder abuse to a child? "I love you all very much," I said carefully. "But sometimes grown-ups need to live in their own homes where they can take care of themselves. It doesn't mean I don't love you or want to see you." "Do you have toys at your house?" Emma wanted to know, her practical question lightening the moment. "I have a few," I told her, "and I'm hoping you can help me choose some more for when you visit." By the end of our 2-hour visit, the ice had been broken. The children extracted a promise that I would see them again soon, and James assured me he would make it happen regardless of Amanda's feelings on the matter. These supervised visits continued every other week. Sometimes James would bring the children to my small apartment where they would marvel at how tiny everything was. Other times we would meet at parks or child-friendly restaurants. Amanda remained conspicuously absent from these gatherings. It took nearly a year before Amanda agreed to meet with me, and even then she insisted on having a family therapist present. The session was tense, with Amanda maintaining that she had done nothing wrong and had only been helping me manage my finances because I was incapable of doing so myself. "You abandoned your grandchildren," she accused, tears in her eyes. "Do you have any idea how much that hurt them, how much it hurt me?" "I left an abusive situation," I corrected her gently. "I never abandoned my love for any of you." But I couldn't continue living as an unpaid servant whose dignity and autonomy were stripped away. The therapist helped us establish some basic ground rules for moving forward, though it was clear that Amanda and I had very different perceptions of our past and what a healthy relationship would look like in the future. She reluctantly agreed to more regular visits with the grandchildren, including occasional holiday celebrations, though these would be at her house with her supervision. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. I had to accept that our relationship would never be what I had once hoped for, a loving mother-daughter bond based on mutual respect and care. Too much damage had been done, and Amanda seemed unable or unwilling to acknowledge her role in it. Yet despite these challenges, I found myself experiencing a new sense of peace and purpose. I had joined a senior volunteer program at the local elementary school, reading to kindergartners once a week. The simple joy of sharing stories with children who looked up to me with respect and affection helped heal some of the wounds from my years of exploitation. I had also discovered a talent for writing particularly personal essays about aging family relationships and resilience. A local senior newsletter published some of my pieces, and the positive feedback gave me confidence to continue exploring this new creative outlet. Looking back on my journey, I realized that the most important lesson I had learned was about the nature of love, both for others and for myself. True love doesn't exploit or control. It respects boundaries and dignity. And self-love isn't selfish. It's essential for healthy relationships of any kind. When I left Amanda's basement that day, she called me selfish. But I've come to understand that what she labeled as selfish was actually the first act of genuine self-love I had shown in years. By refusing to continue participating in my own exploitation, I was affirming my worth as a human being deserving of respect and dignity. My relationship with Amanda remains complicated. The wounds are deep and healing is slow, but I no longer define myself by her perception of me or by my role as a grandmother, mother, or caregiver. I am Gabriella, a woman of strength, resilience, and worth, who is writing a new chapter of her life, based not on obligation or exploitation, but on genuine connection, purpose, and self-determination. I know now that it's never too late to reclaim your life and your dignity. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and ultimately for others, is to say no to abuse and walk away from toxic situations, even when they're disguised as family obligations. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between family expectations and your own well-being? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Please like this video if my story resonated with you. Subscribe for more real-life experiences and share this with someone who might need to hear that prioritizing their own dignity isn't selfish, it's essential. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that it's never too late to choose yourself.